Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in today's first video. Got 3 updates coming up for you today. We're going to start off by having a look at the JMA 3-monthly forecast. This is going to take us from next month, from September right way through to November, so covering the full autumn period. Then we'll have the ECMWF 30-day ensemble update. That's a regular feature on Tuesdays at GWV, and then we'll also have this afternoon your regular week to 10-day video updates. So there'll be quite a lot going on at the website today. Do keep checking back to all of the updates. But this video is going to be focusing on the JMA 3-monthly seasonal model. So we use a JMA every week on a Friday to have a look at the month here, but there is also a more extended model that covers 3 monthly timescales, and we include this model within the seasonal model roundups that we do every month at GWV. So we get around 11 or 12 long-range models together and see what they're all showing for the coming season, in this instance for autumn. So we include the JMA in that, but there's a lot of information that you can get from the JMA. And of course, as we've got like 11 or 12 other long-range models to look at, we don't have time to go into the full range of detail that you can get from the JMA. So we always like to take this one out, isolate it out, and do a video with it in its own sort of terms, and that's what we're going to do for today's first video. So this is covering the full autumn period. We've got the autumn forecast coming up for you on Sunday. Of course, on Saturday we'll have the final seasonal model roundup as well. So the JMA will form part of that season model roundup that is coming up on Saturday. So let's go through the 500 millibar height anomalies from the North Pole view down. First of all, so this is the North Pole of the Northern Hemisphere just here. The mid-latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere are around there, and the British Isles is just there. So you know with 500 millibar heights that blue is extrapolating to low pressure, and yellow, red and orange will be extrapolating to high pressure. So quite interesting really. For September, the JMA is seeing quite a blocking signal to our north. It has this fairly large area of above average height sitting almost over the pole, and to some degree extending down into Scandinavia as well. That leaves a trough of low pressure underneath it through the Atlantic, and seemingly bringing the jet stream into the UK rather like that. Now, we do have some above average heights around Spain, so at times that could bring some ridging into France and southern parts of England, possibly bringing some drier and warmer spells at times to the south. But overall, really, that looks like quite an unsettled month. Now, the shorter range models are just beginning to hone in on September, first part of September, and to be honest, at the moment there's not much sign of unsettled conditions. If anything, the early part of September looks like it's going to be dominated by high pressure, but we can only say what the model is showing, and the JMA does look as though it's going for a fairly unsettled looking signal actually in September. So maybe it'll be one of those situations where the first days of September will start off with a lot of high pressure, but will very quickly deteriorate the pattern. Definitely looks like the JMA is going for a rather Atlantic driven and fairly unsettled month in September. Now this is October, and this is more anticyclonic, so we've got still the above average heights to our north, but they're also extending down to the east of us as well, and into the UK to some degree. That area below average heights is being penned in across the middle of the Atlantic, so the flow and the jet would be doing something rather like that. It looks like it's a warm month, could be bringing up quite a lot of warm air from the south during October, and with high pressure just sitting to our east, we could have a reasonable amount of dry weather too. Of course, it is the middle of autumn, so at times that trough of low pressure will break through and bring unsettled conditions. That is very likely that at times we will see the low pressure breaking through. But overall, as the anomaly for the month of October, that looks as though it probably brings us a fair amount of dry and quite warm weather potentially as well. And then we're up to month 3, so a very long way out. This is November. And this one looks like it's very unsettled. We've got below average heights to the west and the northwest of the country. Above average heights are pulling out into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And also going away up to the east and the northeast of us. So that could be a little bit of an Atlantic onslaught type month. We're bringing the jet stream through the country like that. So you would expect quite a lot of rain to be heading in off the Atlantic, and proper autumnal conditions as well. That is a fairly deep area of low pressure. It's out to the northwest, so as well as rain, that could also be generating quite strong winds at times, maybe some real autumnal gales coming through during the course of November, and possibly at times quite cool as well, because the high pressure's pulled out into the middle of the Atlantic, so the jet stream and the flow looks like it's coming more from the northern Atlantic, really. So we could be putting down some cool air at times from Greenland in particular during the course of November. So cool but unsettled, potentially very unsettled during the course of November. Let's have a look at the tropical and mid-latitude view in terms of the temperature and precipitation anomaly. So the British Isles in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you are looking at it. We're coming back to September first of all. We've got the North Pole up here. You can't see the North Pole, but of course we just looked at the North Pole view. So we know what's going on in September. We've got the below average heights in the Atlantic, and it looks like we're bringing the jet stream in to some degree. We have got some above average heights around Spain. That might ridge up and bring some dry conditions to France and southern parts of England. And we've also got quite a lot of high pressure sitting up here over the North Pole. Let's have a look at the temperature anomaly from the JMA for September. It's coming out average to a little bit above average with the temperature anomaly. So it's not a cold month. As far as precipitation is concerned, though, it does look unsettled. Look at this. It's going for above average rainfall during September. Now, there's no sign of this, as I say, on the shorter range ones at the moment, which are just about extending into the beginning of September now. Certainly the GFS is. There's no sign of any unsettled weather through the first days of September, but of course that's just the first days. It may well be that the month as a whole will become a good deal more unsettled as we go along. The black arrows here indicate where the mean wind direction is going to be coming from. Always a job to make these out, but it looks like they're west to southwesterly with the winds. So definitely Atlantic-driven weather through the course of September, which is something a little bit different to what we've had for quite a while, actually. We haven't seen a proper Atlantic-driven month. Probably have to go back to January, I would have thought, to find our last genuinely Atlantic Atlantic-driven month. So I've had a lot of high pressure, a lot of blocking over the past few months. That looks like it's going much more unsettled with westerly winds, above average rainfall. Because the winds are from the west-southwest, it's not particularly cold, but then again, it wouldn't be particularly warm either. Probably close to average temperatures in September. October has high pressure building up to our east, so we have to come over to this side of the chart to see that across central parts of Europe. The below average heights are penned back in the middle of the Atlantic, so that looks more settled and also potentially quite warm as well. Let's have a look at the temperature anomaly. So that's coming out above average, or average to a little bit above average with the temperature anomaly in October. And it's a drier month as well. Perhaps not quite as dry as you might have thought given the 500 millibar height anomaly, though. Scotland and Northern Ireland, interestingly, are still coming out a little bit wetter than average. But England and Wales is coming out drier than average during the course of October. The mean wind direction looks like it's sort of southerly to a little bit southeasterly. So again, the black arrows are always a job to make out. We've got southerly winds going up there. If we come over here, actually there are hints of kind of like easterly or southeasterly winds coming into the UK. So if the wind goes east in October, actually it can be quite chilly. But if the wind is sort of southeast, then a relatively warm month would be expected. And then finally, we're through to November. And of course, in November, it looks like we get a bit of an Atlantic onslaught developing, to be honest. So we've got this big area of below average heights just to our west northwest. The above average heights have pulled out into middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The jet stream looks like it's going more northwest to southeast, so not only could it be very unsettled, it might also be quite chilly as well, with northwesterly winds bringing the air out of Greenland. Temperature anomalies are still holding up, just a little bit warmer than average, although we have got this cooler than average area in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So if wind goes into the northwest, that could bring some fairly chilly air to us. And unsurprisingly, with such a deep trough of low pressure close to the country, the precipitation anomaly is going wetter than average during the course of November, so quite a wet end to the autumn. And as far as the wind direction is concerned, it kind of like west to northwesterly. So the black arrows coming from the northwest through there, and also tilting a little bit to the west into the UK. Basically another very Atlantic-driven month, potentially very unsettled and quite cool as well. So an interesting autumn coming up. It looks like September, if this is right, is a rather cooler and more changeable month compared to what we're used to recently, with a lot of westerly winds bringing bouts of rain in from off the Atlantic. As I say, the opening days in the shorter range models are not showing much sign of that at the moment, but it is early days for those getting to September. October really looks like it's a drier and warmer month, although it's a little bit unsettled for the northwest, so not completely getting rid of the influence from the Atlantic, but a drier, warmer October following the cooler and more unsettled September. And then November opens the door to the Atlantic, and we go into a bit of an Atlantic onslaught in November. Could bring heavy rain, gale force winds, and possibly some quite cool air as well, because the jet stream looks like it's more lined northwest to southeast as opposed to being southwest to northeast, which would bring mild conditions in that alignment. But when the jet stream gets aligned northwest to southeast, then that can actually bring some cooler air out of Greenland at times. So you wouldn't totally rule out the chance of some wintry weather, but I think the main talking point for November is probably a very wet and windy type month. Right, so that's a JMA for the next 3 months. We will include this in the seasonal model roundup for the autumn of 2018, the last one of those that we'll be doing on Saturday morning. That'll be the first video up on Saturday when we'll get sort of 11, 12 long-range models together. You'll be able to see how many more of those models are agreeing with the JMA for this autumn. Right, later on today, we're going to have a look at the ECMWF 30-day ensemble. Will that show any signs of unsettled conditions for September? You'll find out shortly. And then this afternoon, we'll have your regular week to 10-day video update. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.